Welcome to another episode of Risky Conversations with Jamie Lee. I'm Jamie Lee, and I'm an executive coach for smart women who don't like office politics, and I help them get promoted, get better paid without throwing anyone under the bus. And why risky conversations? Because everything that's worthwhile is on the other side of a risky conversation. And today we have a special guest from all the way in Japan, where I got to spend an amazing 3 months workationing recently. And I have to be completely honest, I already miss it. I already miss, the Japan experience so much. It was such a wonderful experience. And my special guest in Japan today, her name is Ai Asakura. Ai, so good to have you here. And I is an alumni program manager for the Tomodachi Initiative at the U.S. Japan Council, leading strategic engagement for a network of more than 10,000 alumni across the U.S. and Japan. Originally from Fukuoka, Japan, she moved to the U.S. after high school and she earned a bachelor's degree in hospitality and tourism management from the University of Wisconsin Stout. I brings over 15 years of cross-cultural experience, including client relationship management with IHG Hotels and Resorts and Hilton Hotels, and translation and communications for a Japanese automotive company. She has mentored for the Tomodachi MetLife Women's Leadership Program. She has served as a curriculum advisor for University of Wisconsin Stout and is an active member in several Fukuoka-based professional organizations. And in fact, when I was in Fukuoka in May and June, I met I in person at the expats meetup. And it was a really wonderful cross-cultural exchange of people who are based in Japan, from Japan, like I, as well as expats from all over the world, people who are, loving their Japan experience and wanted to deepen their knowledge and connection with Japan. And when I introduced herself at this event in Fukuoka, I immediately thought I have to interview Ai on Risky Conversations. He's got such an interesting role, such an interesting story. And as a bicultural person myself, I'm Korean American. I was born in Korea and now I live in America. Like I could relate to so many of the things that you work on, as well as, your own lived experience. So I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you. Thank you, Ai, for being here.
Well, thank you so much, Jamie, for having me. I'm very honored to be on a podcast. I felt like I'm a very famous person. And like Jamie said, I think it was a very meant to be. I love this random connections that I make going to different meetings and events and networking. The meetup is not something that I'm always there, but the day you were there was when I was there. And then we exchange introductions, and here we are. So I'm very fortunate and an honor to be here. And I'm very excited to share my journey with you and then your audience because I bring in pretty unusual, I guess, life and career path. So
Yeah,
I'm really excited to talk about that.
yes. And to give the listeners a bit of context, when we were in Fukuoka, when we met in person in Fukuoka, the venue that hosted this expats meetup, which was all in English, um,
Mhm.
it's like this little gem, this place,
Mm, yeah.
because it's in the city center of Fukuoka. Fukuoka is one of the major cities in Japan, and it's like a little slice of New York City.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's got the New York City vibe, it's got the New York
Yeah.
City art and the kitsch. And it's got
Uh-huh.
New York City elements of like coming across all these different cultures and people from all sorts of walks of life. And we're just like hang out and we, connect with each other peer to peer. And that was a really
Mhm.
special night. So again, I'm really glad that we did meet at that networking event.
Yeah.
And let's start from, where you work right now. What
Okay.
is Tomodachi Initiative by the U.S.
Uh-huh.
Japan Council? It sounds very formal, right? Very
Yeah.
specific. And what is Tomodachi Initiative? In Japanese,
Yeah.
Tomodachi means friend,
Hmm.
but the
Yeah,
initiative
exactly.
stands for something specific. And I'm curious what your role is in the Tomodachi Initiative.
Thank you. So, just the name says the organization is called U.S. Japan Council. So, obviously, we are U.S. and Japan, uh, and then we strive to strengthen the connections between those two countries with cross generational and then cross industries. So the organization is a nonprofit organization, and it was started by Japanese American originally to educate and give them the roots going back to their, where they came from, their ancestors came from.
So for the
Uh,
Nikkei, for the Japanese American.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes. So it was founded by Senator Daniel Inouye, who is from Hawaii, and then his wife Irene Hirano Inouye. So obviously, you can tell from their last name, there are Japanese Americans who have immigrated to U.S. But actually, Daniel Inoue, his family is from Fukuoka. So I have a very close personal connection with the founder, Daniel Inoue. And then I'm very proud that, Fukuoka is his, roots and then where his family is. But when we had the Great East Japan earthquake back in 2011, it's been 15 years ago now. Um, when the disaster happened, the U.S. military came to help us with the humanitarian support to support our recovery effort. And they called the operation as Operation Tomodachi. And then that's where the Tomodachi Initiative came from. So the Tomodachi Operation Tomodachi lasted only 3 months, but U.S. and Japan wanted to keep going with the relationship. So they came to us to U.S. Japan Council to see, what we can do to keep going with this relationship and what the affected area actually needed was in the midst of recovery of the mass. Adults were just so focused on just doing the day-to-day life, you know, putting food on the table and then, looking for a shelter for their family to
Mhm.
protect so that they can survive. So the children and the young kids, they weren't given any special attentions that they should have been receiving if we were not for the disaster. So that was the area that they thought that we could help. So that's why we decided to start an initiative called Tomodachi Initiative, and we started providing leadership program opportunities, scholarship opportunities. So those kids can go to U.S. And then start seeing hope, and then start looking different things. And when those kids come back to Japan, they're just facial expressions, their eyes are wide open. Before they were very devastated. They
Mhm.
felt like, everything was taken away in their hometown. but everything changed after spending a few weeks in the US. And they wanted to be the one who wanted to make changes. If
Mm,
they want anything available, if they everything was wiped away, they felt like, okay, let's just start building, let's start doing something. And that was the mentality that they had, just, going over to the States and then being exposed to hope.
mm,
So that's where we thought, you know, yeah, we really need to keep doing this. So that's what we have been doing this past 15 years. And now we not only focused in those disaster area, but throughout the entire Japan and then US. So we've been doing that exchange for the last 15 years. But where I come in is, the last 15 years, we have done over 350 programs. So now we have over 10,000 program participants who became an alumni. And then we don't want to be just a one-off. So we created the community called Tomodachi Generation. And actually, the Tomodachi Generation, the term came from Hillary Clinton when she attended our annual conference. And then we're very proud to use the term now. But I planned different events and engagement opportunities so those alumni can stay engaged and continue to find paths for their growth and the way to give back to the community or pay it forward. So different ways to improve themselves. And then I feel very lucky to have the position and the job that I have because it's such a rewarding job. Like I said, those kids, they just have such a flexible mentality, and then the things that they're looking at through their eyes are completely different from grown up eyes. As we take things for granted. Sun will always come up, will, stuff like that. But for them, every little things is learning and then fresh for them. So I learn a lot from them actually. Uh, and I see them spark, I see them thrive, and now all the participants are around the same age as my own son. So
mm.
I feel like every year I gain over 100 kids of my own. And I being a mom to those kids, and I get to mommy them. So that's another reward point, and I just love it. It's such a rewarding position.
Sounds like very meaningful, allowing those young people
Yes, very
to
much so.
yeah, a
Mm-hmm.
new
Mm-hmm.
perspective broadening experience. And I studied abroad in Japan when I was 19 years old as a college student. And I remember
Mm,
just being, bright-eyed and like, whoa. And having studied the
yeah.
language, having studied Japanese in college and getting to really speak Japanese with the local people, it felt magical for me. So of course, I'm not here to, compare my study abroad with, people who actually lived through the Great Earthquake, but like, just how mind-opening, how world-changing that
Mm-hmm.
experience can be to,
Yeah.
to be immersed in a different culture and make human connection. And it kind of gives me chills to think about it, but
Exactly.
also, when people see the positive aspects of America, like we're known for that can-do spirit, the optimism, that
Mm-hmm.
sense of
Mm-hmm.
individualism, but also I can do something to change my reality, to change my
Yeah.
world, right? So that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, in addition to Tomodachi Initiative, you're involved in many organizations and volunteer groups
Mm-hmm.
outside your work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
I do.
in fact, there are many different groups within the U.S. Japan uh, Council, like that are associated, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious
Mm-hmm.
what it means for you personally. to be part of these different communities?
Yeah, so I think you used the keyword just now, the people to people connection,
Mm,
and that's exactly what I love, and then that's exactly why I work for this organization,
mm,
because that's another keyword for the organization itself. But throughout my life and then even currently and ongoing, just the people connection, the human connection is the treasure, and that what gives you the power. So the power of networking is I cannot stress enough. When I mentor these young, next generations, or when they come to me for any advice, that is something that I always say, you got to get out, talk to people, widen your network, because that will be the treasure for you. And you never know, the people you meet at different outing, even maybe just, you know, standing in line in the grocery store, those people might come around and you might be working for them, or that might be a mentor for you.
yeah.
And that's how exactly I met Jamie. So you just have to use the power of networking, and that's why I belong to different organizations, because I at the same time I want to give back to community, but I'm actually gaining from belonging to those organizations. And that's what I feel like. I see, older people, young people from different backgrounds, different work experience, different family setting. Everybody has something that will teach you or learn, or something to talk about,
Mhm.
and it's never boring. And I get so fascinated by talking to new people, or even people that I know. I might find something new. So that's why I belong to different organizations, and one of the main organization that I belong to here in Fukuoka is the Japan American Society. And of course, because of my time with U.S., as soon as I came back to Fukuoka, that was the first organization that I belonged to, and that led um, to the opportunity of mentoring the female students through the program that U.S. Japan Council offered at that time. And because I did the mentor, now I work for them, and then I get to manage the alumni. So it's all connected.
Mm.
I didn't think about working for this organization. I didn't know that they had such programs. But because I was a member of the Japan American Society, and then it was, something that came through the association, I got the notification, and here I am. So things like that happen all the time, small or big. So that's why I enjoy being with different organization and meeting with new people.
So you were a member of so you're a mentor, you're like a volunteer mentor in a young women's program. And then through that
Mm-hmm.
program, you learned
Yeah.
about this opportunity to be a program manager, and now
Yeah.
it's your full-time job. And also,
Yes.
I wanna highlight something that may not be obvious, especially if the listener is in the Western Hemisphere. Like, we take it for granted that you're speaking English, fluent English, you know? I mean, and I'm not trying to like flatter or anything, but you really are exceptional in that, not a lot of Japanese people speak fluent English, American
Mm-hmm.
English too, right?
Mm,
With
yeah.
a lot of comfort. Um, and this reminds me when we were in Japan, every once in a while, my life partner, his he looks like a, the conventional American person, with hazel eyes and so with his fair skin. And so people would randomly walk up to him and start trying to practice their little bit of English. And you
Ah,
could tell like, it took a lot of courage and this is like something really exciting because
yeah.
they're talking to a foreigner, right? So I just want to say when you're involved in these communities, it's not
Uh-huh.
just with your Japanese community. You're engaged with the international
Mm,
community, you're engaged with the expat community, you're also engaged with Japanese Americans, you're engaged with, just Americans or Korean Americans or whatever
mm-hmm.
Americans like, right?
Yeah.
You have a very wide reach in your network,
Yes.
right?
Uh-huh.
And yes, the power of networking is really incredible. Like one of my clients, she called it a portal. Like when you network, you're stepping into a portal of opportunities and new possibilities.
Mm,
You know,
mm.
we met at a little New York themed burger joint in Fukuoka.
Yeah.
But once early in my career, I went to an acupuncturist for neck
Uh-huh.
pain from
Uh-huh.
works, the stress of working in a workplace,
Sure.
finance. And the acupuncturist referred me to her husband,
Oh.
who's a CFO at a tech company. And then the CFO, her husband, ended up hiring
Uh-huh.
me. So
Oh, wow. See, there you go.
right. We wouldn't call
Mm-hmm.
that, I wouldn't think that was networking, but it's just we're just meeting people and connecting with them as a
Uh-huh.
person, as a human, and just and it opened up this portal of a totally new career for me. So
Mm-hmm.
uh I want to ask you the question that I ask everyone who
Yeah.
come on risky conversations, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So tell us about the riskiest conversation you had to engage in yourself in your
Mm.
bicultural career, right? You went to college in the US, you worked in the US, and then you're now working in Japan, but for the
Mm-hmm.
U.S. Japan Council. And I'm curious why that particular conversation was risky and why
Mm-hmm.
it was worth taking the risk. Okay.
Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, I'll be glad to. I guess for my case, it might not be a risky conversation, but risky opportunity, maybe. So I talked about, I've done mentoring for young female students.
Mhm.
So part of the program, we always came together because we had 10 pairs in Fukuoka region, 10 pairs in Tokyo area, 10 pairs Hokkaido, Osaka.
And each pair is a mentor
So we
mentee.
had,
Each pair is a mentor
yes, yes,
mentee.
yeah. Yeah, professional and student, we
Mhm.
always pair up. And then, we walk along for 9 months. That was the program.
Mhm.
But we were spread out throughout Japan in 5 different regions. But at the end of the program, we always came together, or kind of like a summit, so that all of us can come together, share the learning. The female students will do presentation, things like that. But one year it was when COVID happens. So
Mhm.
obviously, in person conference wasn't possible or traveling wasn't possible. So the program manager at that time had to come up with something so we could still come together and then conclude the program. So what they had come up with was to select a mentor from each region. And then they did kind of like this, like a one-on-one talk, so that, the selected mentor from the region could share their background, their work-life balance, whatever it might be that they had really focused during their mentorship program. And then I was actually reached out as to represent my region. And then, like I said, there were 9 other mentors in the same program. And in the group, there were, much more executive or much more senior level professionals that were in the group. And I was working for a hotel back then. And then there was actually another lady who was in hotel business, but she was area general manager. So obviously she was in much higher position. So when I was given the opportunity, I felt like, there are other female mentors who might be more appropriate to represent
Mm.
Fukuoka region. Um, so I had to, debate myself, maybe I should turn it down and give the opportunity to other people who is more appropriate. But then, second thought, if I do that, all the messages that I have been given to my mentees, it's going to turn back around and, I'm not executing or practicing what
Mm.
I am telling the next generation. And, being a mentor, being a leader, it doesn't come with your title or status on the social community. Just because you are an executive, it doesn't mean you're a leader. And then that is the message that I should give. And I think there is a reason that they chose me and they reached out to me. So I should take this opportunity, even though I didn't feel comfortable at first. So I thought it was a risky opportunity that I should take so that I can practice, what I have been preaching to my mentees. So that's what I did. And in one of the messages was, exactly what I was said. The title doesn't mean leadership. Uh, your mom, your stay-home mom, is also a leader.
Yes.
Um, she volunteered to help with the soccer match or serve for PTO. Those are considered as leadership element. But many female, especially in Japan, don't realize that, and they don't
I
feel
think it's
confident.
everywhere. I think it's not just Japan. It happens in the States, it happens in the West, it happens
Maybe,
in
yes.
Europe, it happens in
Uh-huh.
Africa. Like people thinking,
Yeah.
oh, if my job title isn't fancy enough, maybe that doesn't mean I'm a leader. And then we
Mm-hmm.
overlook, just as you said, just because
Right.
you're an executive doesn't mean you're a leader.
Mm-mm.
What is the
No.
impact?
Mm-mm.
How are you, influencing people around you? How are you, helping to organize and inspire people into
Right.
action? Just like, the mom who organizes the soccer match or,
Uh-huh.
volunteers. Yeah, that's so good. So what I'm hearing is that the risk was not in you show, the risk isn't you attending the event. The risk was you opting out because worried too much that your title meant
Mm-hmm.
something,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which doesn't. Right?
Right,
So it's
right.
a different kind
Uh-huh.
of risk. The risk was actually giving into this voice of self-doubt.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And then I
yeah,
think it was a good reflection too,
yeah.
to realize that myself. Mm-hmm.
Great. Um, so you moved through hospitality, translation work, and now
Uh-huh.
the U.S. Japan Council.
Yes.
And I'm curious, again, kind of on this theme of risky moves, like which of
Mm-hmm.
these transitions scared you the most? And
Mm.
what had to be said about why it mattered?
Yeah. So again, this transitions all happened thanks to the networking.
Mm,
Uh, so I have always done hospitality because that's what I studied. But during my hospitality career, I also belong to Japanese community in Kentucky where I was living back then. To cultivate, Japanese market. So that was part of my task. Um, but the initial motive was for my business. But the more that I got involved with the Japanese community, I got to know them. I started to understand. Um, Before that, I already spoke the language. I was already living in the States for over 10 years, so I didn't have any problem, living in the States, and then it didn't have to associate with Japanese community in order to, to have a decent life in the States. So again, the initial motive was purely for my business. But then I started to appreciate, I guess, keeping the identity as a Japanese
mm,
and carrying on the traditions, even while I was in the States. So what I started to doing was, providing traditional festivals and holiday opportunities throughout the community, so that they feel, more comfortable while they were, away from their own country, and then still enjoy both aspects. So I started planning those kind of events. I started doing newsletter for them, introducing how to make some Japanese dishes, utilizing the ingredients that you can get in the grocery store in the States. So those
I
are the
love
things,
that. That's so
yeah, I start
useful.
doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And, it also gave me an opportunity to, dig deeper in Japanese culture.
Mm,
That's when I started taking kimono classes so that I can wear kimono to those different events in the States. Um, and I took some tea ceremony from my aunt so that I can understand the culture, and then, have that introduced to the community. So that was a good, reconnect to my own roots. And then it's kind of funny that I said that because I am Japanese. So but being away from my own country and then looking at my own country from outside gave me the opportunity to do that. So I'm very, glad that I did that. But through belonging to the community, um, because in Kentucky we have a very strong in Japanese automotive industry presence. So many of the members are from those companies. And I got to know one of the executive members from the companies, and he reached out to me. He was looking for a translator for his company, and you're interested. And it was a completely different feel. It wasn't something that I have done. I've never done professionally, even though I spoke, English, but translation uses a different part of brain. So it doesn't mean that you can translate. But again, I thought it was a great opportunity. And I was really flattered and humbled that, the president reached out to me in thinking, I will be a good candidate, not having the background. So I thought it was the opportunity that I should take. And then I guess it probably was a risky opportunity that I took, from going from a service industry to manufacturing business, and being an interpreter. was something different because in the hotel business, I was a salesperson. So I was always have to be up front and then talk to people. But now as an interpreter, I am talking for them. Um, so the joke was when I start doing the interpreter, I couldn't completely get rid of my sales mentality. So I got carried away and then start talking myself. And then I was stopped like, oh, you're supposed to be translating this person says. You don't carry your own conversation. So I had to remind myself in the beginning to become a good interpreter.
Mm.
But that was another story. But yeah, so that was the transition that I made, completely different, intangible to tangible. And that gave me another good experience and insight because it was a Japanese owned company and I never worked for a Japanese company. So I got to learn, different business styles, different mannerism in Japanese business setting. So it gave me a really good opportunity. And then I also got to, learn the technology industry. And then I got to learn different terms. So it, gave me an opportunity to grow and then have a different side of skill set. And then, enrich my assets.
And did that
Yeah.
influence your decision to return to Japan?
And then the return to Japan was when my son was getting ready to go to middle school.
Mm.
Uh, oh, what was the question?
I was curious if
Oh,
your pivot into
mm-hmm,
this interpreter translator role
mm-hmm.
influenced if it led to your decision to return to Japan, or maybe it didn't.
No. So the decision to return was because my son's education.
Mm,
I want him to go to the middle school and high school in Japan
mm,
to learn Japanese language. Yeah.
mm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that your son's experience is probably more close to mine because, well, in reverse direction because I was my parents immigrated uh and took the entire family and brought us to America when I was about almost 7 years old. And they
Mm,
wanted us to learn English and be exposed to new opportunities. And you wanted
mm-hmm.
your son to learn Japanese and be
Yes.
exposed to that set of new
Uh-huh.
opportunities that open up when
That
you, yeah.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also had early in my career an experience where I worked for a South Korean company, and that was because
Mm-hmm.
I speak Korean and English. And it was a really hard experience. It was one of the hardest experience, I have to say. First of all, I was really young. I was fresh out of college. And
Mm,
because I spent more time in America from when I was 7 all the way through college, like I feel very American and I think more like an American than a South
mm-hmm.
Korean person would. And so that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
culture shock, for lack of a better
Yeah.
word, when you're immersed in a South Korean organization with the South Korean mentality and the South Korean way of doing things it was really tough because I'm still living in America, but because, I was born in South Korea, like there's a completely different set of norms and expectations, especially depending on your gender, right? And
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
I
really
can
struggled.
totally relate.
Yeah, you can relate. And I really
Uh-huh.
struggle with that. And I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna enjoy working for another Asian company. I think, and then eventually I'm like, I'm just gonna go work for myself. Yeah. But earlier when you said that you were basically becoming a kind of community leader for the Japanese expats
Uh-huh.
in Kentucky,
Yeah.
that was for the hotel business or for your personal business, like your own?
Hotel business.
for the hotel business, for the
Uh-huh.
IHG,
Yeah.
the Hilton
Uh-huh.
hotels. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Uh-huh.
that really boggles my mind because um, I got to stay in an IHG hotel in Nagasaki earlier this
Ah.
year. And it's just like the level of hospitality is just beyond the roof. The level
Oh.
of care and
Uh-huh.
the, in
Yeah.
Japanese, they have this phrase called omotenashi, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
how
Mm-hmm.
hospitable, like it has to come like from this sincere, right? Like
Yeah.
total integrity, like and yeah, I'd imagine that in Kentucky that experience for the Japanese community was very comforting. But I also imagine
Mm.
that, the special care you brought to the Japanese community was, I'm sure it was like, chef's kiss, like really, really great. So I'm curious, you've deliberately built bridges across communities, right? Like when you
Mm-hmm.
were
I
in
tried to.
America, you build bridges between Japanese people and America and American groceries and American customs. And now you're in Japan and you're still bridging, the gap between U.S., Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you realize being between these two cultures was actually a superpower? Because a lot of people when they find themselves bicultural, they feel split or
Mm-hmm.
unsettled, or there's even
Mm-hmm.
this feeling of like where do I belong, right? But I'm curious, when did you realize that this is actually a superpower?
Mm.
And did you have to convince anyone else about that?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. I think there were many moments that, I felt like um, I've been, I don't know, liaison is the right word, but,
Right.
connecting or building
Yeah.
bridge between those two countries. And, that's because my initial desire and wants to study in the States, and, and still having the Japanese identity. But I think when I realize what my identity is, well, I guess I always thought I was a liaison, but when it clicked, wasn't not until actually recently.
Hmm.
And I said that because um, I wasn't sure about my identity
Hmm.
because I spent almost equal amount in those two countries.
Hmm.
And you were saying even though you are South Korean, you act like American.
Well, now I'm a
You
naturalized
feel like
American.
you're more American,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, technically,
Mhm.
legally, I'm more
And
American, and I feel that way. Yeah.
yeah, uh-huh, yeah. So
Yeah.
I am almost like that too.
Mm,
But somebody gave me a term, Shinise. So I'm not born in the States, but I spent enough time in the States as a Japanese a person.
mm,
So they came up with the term Shinise, something that will start those bicultural generation.
mm,
And and I don't know, just because I was given the term, it just felt like it really made sense. And then just having that comfort that I do have something to identify myself, uh, having the term, was a really comfortable feeling for me. And it sounds very, a niche or, cheesy, but I just felt like I finally belonged to somewhere when I was told that. And then, she said, you are Sheena said, you are one of us. She had the same experience. So I think having the comfortable feeling of, who you are and then, what your identity is, that gives you more power to build bridges in those two countries. So it's not so much a silo, but it's a joint, and then, a genuine connection between those two countries. And that's why I do like, helping, countries through different associations and then from the work that I do. And, even if they are two different countries, when it comes down to is, we are humans, we're people. So I'm going to talk about people to people connections again. But that is the power. And, it doesn't matter if you're talking to a Japanese person or American person or Japanese American. What connects people is just the genuine heart, that you want to connect. So as soon as you can show that, I think it connects and then gives the energy to the other side of the, people that you're talking to.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that is the power, the special power.
You remind me, I think it was in the 90s when I was growing up in New Jersey, I
Uh-huh.
first learned the phrase Korean American. And then
Uh-huh.
I realized, oh yeah, there's a distinction between the Koreans, that my
Mm.
parents are. They're really
Uh-huh.
Koreans, but I'm
Yeah.
Korean American because I grew up
Mm.
here. And I remember that when you name things, when you give name to a very specific experience, it like coalesces that power. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like when somebody said, "Oh, you're a Shin-ise and you're one of us," you're like, "Oh, I have a
Yeah.
community. I'm not alone."
Yes.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's a really powerful thing. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
My one of my clients and I are doing a workshop. And because what you're talking about is so true. Like when you just make a human to human connection with people, right? There's so many opportunities and new realizations, new possibilities that open up. And we sort of been taught to think about networking as like, oh, I'm trying to get something out of you. Or, in America,
Mm,
we have
mm,
that
mm-hmm.
concept of like networking is kind of like pushy or
Uh-huh.
and so we're cheekily, kind of sarcastically calling this event, this workshop, anti-networking, because just as you
Ah,
said, when you really make that human to human connection, I'm just genuinely curious. I just want to learn about you, and we get to hear each other out, right? It's not pushy, it's not awkward, it's not
mm,
transactional, but like
mm,
so much potential can be unleashed. You've
uh,
switched careers, you've successfully navigated different transitions, and as have my client, Sarah Neal, who's also been on this podcast. So I'm really glad that you brought up the topic of networking, and that I just
mm.
want to say, like, yes, networking, but focusing on the connection, right? Focusing on
Yes.
getting to learn about people and their different
Uh-huh.
cultural experiences in the background. Like this conversation has been so rich for me because I'm Asian American, but I also love, Japan. And it's really cool to see people who are working to make that Japan US connection even more robust, even more meaningful for everyone
Mm-hmm.
involved. So
Yeah. I
thank
think
you.
being curious or
Yeah.
having an interest in
Yeah.
you is the difference from,
Yes.
people who are trying to sell you something and then just get close to you, you know.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
it. That's the
Because
key.
I'm just genuinely curious about what you do or, where you come from. So yes, curiosity is very important.
Yes. Well, thank you
Hmm.
so much for making yourself available so early in your day. I know it's my
Yes.
evening, your morning. Is there anything else that I didn't ask that you wish you got to share, or any wisdom that you want to share with, particularly, other women of color, or, bicultural women? Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Yeah. as a person who has spent time in both countries,
Hmm.
as a minor, as a female,
You
I've
mean as a
gone through this.
marginalized leader?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And then, I came out okay. So I can believe everybody can do it. And that, goes back to everybody can be a leader. Everybody can have your own style of leadership.
Yes.
Um, so I want to tell everybody, including male, female, anybody that have curiosity, go out there to talk to people, and enrich your network, and then by talking to them, just enrich yourself, fill up your knowledge and heart by talking to and then interacting with those people. And that is the key. And, with nowadays in the world, you know, some people may feel awkward going out there and in talking to people, but I don't want you to be discouraged with that, because there are still good people out there, and there is hope. There's a hope in the world. So
Yes,
that is
there's
the
hope in the
message.
world. Amazing.
Mhm.
That's a great message to end on. Well, I thank you so much for making yourself available all the way from Japan.
Sure,
And I look
it's a
forward to seeing you
pleasure.
again.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yeah.
All right.
Well,
Stay
thank you so
connected.
much, Jamie.